Hello everyone, ex-Bethelite here. I was watching what I believe to be XJW 5th's latest interview, and very good interview, by the way. And what struck me about this interview, which was about a man who was a former elder that eventually woke up. He explains his story as to how he grew up, what happened while he was in the organization, and then how he woke up. Now, what struck me as interesting was that he was married. He woke up, his wife didn't. This is something that happens, and it always amazes me when two people that know each other very well and experience some of the same things, one wakes up, one does not. I think this speaks to the power of personal experience. This elder that was interviewed experienced the organization in a certain way through his eyes that his wife did not. He personally experienced being injured, I believe, taking the medication that they gave him for pain, being hooked on it, real life experience, being hooked on that, going to the elders for help, and they reprove him. It happens again. They disfellowship him. That's the kind of help that they gave him. She didn't experience that. She had to know about it. Unless I'm incorrect, they were married during this time. So she had to be aware that it happened. But because she didn't experience and feel really what it was like, from what I got from that video, that interview, she didn't wake up. He did. Personal experience with regards to the organization has a lot to do with people waking up, from what I can see. You have people that woke up at an early age. I mean, like they were never really into it. I mean, like they always thought something was off. You have those people that wake up and leave, oftentimes at an early age, teens, early 20s. But then you have people that fully bought into what the organization and their parents oftentimes were teaching them. And what I've noticed is many times there is a painful experience that happens where that person eventually wakes up after going through something. Maybe everyone they knew turned on them. Maybe a real life event that happens. People don't always choose for bad things to happen. Sometimes bad things happen, and then the religion shuns them and judges them, and you're a horrible person, and then they start to see, something that you experience that even if other people in your family see it, they don't wake up because they haven't gone through it. They're seeing it, but they're not going through it. When I went to Bethel, one thing that I struggled with was marriage, right? So I wanted to be married, but I also wanted to go to Bethel. And I remember before going, I sat and I talked to, didn't sit, I talked to every elder, whether I was in service, wherever I saw them, every elder in the congregation. I talked to them and I told them, if you had to choose between marriage and Bethel, what would you choose? Because I felt like I couldn't go wrong with either. But I wanted to be sure. So I told them, I prayed about it. And then I went to every individual elder in my congregation and asked them. And there was a consensus. Every one of them said they would pick Bethel. Let's go back to what we've been saying. They hadn't been to Bethel. They didn't experience it. They'd been married. Maybe for whatever reason, they felt Bethel was a better choice based off their experience with marriage. Every single elder in that congregation was married. And they're all telling me to go to Bethel. They're all telling me to do something they had no experience with. So then I go to Bethel, and guess what I do? I experience it. And I felt the man's pain when he's talking about the sacrifices and not wanting to have kids in the system. And well, really that's a sacrifice, because sometimes people kind of want to, but they don't, because they feel like that's not what they're supposed to do. I felt that because time and time again, while I'm pioneering prior to Bethel, I'm in the car, I'm pioneering, I'm next to someone who has a wife, who has kids, and you're going through that sacrifice, that, man, that looks fulfilling, but I'm doing this because the end of the system is almost here. This is the right thing. This is the best possible thing to do, is go to Bethel, serve. When everything happens, Bethel will be the place to be. You know, that's where you'll get the instruction or what have you. So when I come back from Bethel, not to mention that while I was there, I spoke to certain family members on the phone about some of the issues there. When I would go back to visit, you know, I'm coming back to Ohio to visit from Bethel looking probably like a deer in the headlights, eyes wide open, like, I can't believe what I'm seeing there. And people are asking me questions and I'm kind of answering them. They don't feel what it's like, though. That's the problem between trying to explain something to a family member that is in the organization and them experiencing it themselves. Because had the shoe been on the other foot and another person went to Bethel and I was still there in Ohio, and they started explaining me certain things, I don't know if I would have gotten it because I hadn't been through it. It's a whole nother world once you've gone through something versus someone tell you it. So I get back and I'm thinking, originally when I got back from Bethel, I'm thinking, how's my whole family not figured any of this out yet? I was there. They knew me prior to going, so they knew I never did nothing but theocratic things. Like, if anybody would have done well there, it would have been, you know, somebody that lived, ate, and breathed the organization like I did. So they knew me. Then they see me come back from Bethel and the effect of me coming back from Bethel. And none of them can figure it out because they hadn't experienced it. A lot of them experienced marriage or whatever else that they've gone through. And they're thinking in their mind, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Bethel is a paradise in comparison to what I've been through. Why do they think that? Because they never been there. So many times people judge a situation they've never been in. And while I was watching that video, I also thought about a discussion I had with my older sister, Andrea. A lot of you may have seen her. She's done videos before. And I believe she goes to a non-denominational church and is very active in that church. And I had a discussion with her because I don't really attend a particular church. I feel like I'm a very deep thinking person, but I don't necessarily attend a church, probably because my whole background has been religious and I don't really feel like I go and learn anything. Like, you know what I mean? It's nice to be around nice people. So I'll attend from time to time, but I don't really go with the intent that, you know, my life is based on it or something to that effect. I sat and I listened to her, my sister, my older sister, and she told me what a lot of people would call a testimony. And I sat and thought about what she was telling me happened to her. I'm just hearing it, but it happened to her. Maybe she would like to share her testimony on YouTube if she would like. But what she told me made me think. Had the exact same thing happened to me, I would be going to the same church you're going to. I would be just as active at that church, just as on fire for that church. The power of personal experience. Marcus prays before going to Bethel. Marcus not only prays, but Marcus print out everything I could find online about Bethel. I didn't just look it up. I printed it out. Keep in mind, I went early 2000s, so I don't know what all was online, which is online now. Had I looked it up online now, I would have found all kinds of things. And I probably, I would have found all kinds of things. As much extensive research that I did on Bethel prior to going, I would have found all kinds. But so I print out a thick thing of anything I could find with the word Bethel in it. And I sit there and I read it and I study it and I pray about it. And, you know, I decide not to have kids and, you know, go to Bethel, and it is nothing like what I thought it would be. And I end up leaving the organization after a period of time, after figuring out, okay, Bethel is 1,000% not what people think. Then I go to the Kingdom Hall and people keep getting on stage saying things that aren't true. At Bethel, they do this. At Bethel, they do that. And I'm looking at this person. I'm like, you've never been. I'm in the seat at the hall looking at these people. And I'm like, you never been. It's hard for me to explain to you the experience of sitting at the Kingdom Hall, watching people get up on platform and say things that aren't true. And you know it's not true because you lived at Bethel. And nobody else in the hall knows it's not true because they weren't there. The person saying the stuff wasn't there. And you know what I mean? So eventually, over a period of time, a number of things happen. Partially, the people at the hall kind of judging me and not visiting and nobody came by to visit. Like, all kinds of things happen. Nobody came by to visit. And then you see quote unquote worldly people, and they're a whole lot nicer, a whole lot more concerned. So these are things that I can relate to with regards to the interview XJW 5th did. Now, let's get back to the power of experience. Because had I worn my older sister's shoes, she's got children, she's married, her life is completely different from mine. She's prayed and had direct answer to those prayers. I'm not married. Not that that's a bad thing. You know what I mean? Because would I like to get married? Yeah. But from what I've seen and the statistics, marriage in paradise is not like, you know, the answer to all problems. That's neither here nor there. The point is our experiences. My experience of life. Not married, still don't have kids. My experience with, you know, prayer and my experience with church. After Watchtower, I was involved with the Baptist church, involved with Catholic church, involved with Pentecostal church. My search was extensive. And my testimony is very different from somebody's testimony that's standing there, that's attending something regularly. What people don't really get is that others have different experiences with something and they base their decisions on what they experienced. Right? So if I was in my sister's shoes and I had 4 or 5 children and a wife and prayed and had direct answers to prayers and had my kids call me and say they prayed and had direct answers and I'm seeing the direct answer, I'd be at church too. You know what I mean? Now, had she lived in my shoes and had the direct, complete opposite happen, she'd probably be sitting right here doing videos while I was at church. So bring it back to Watchtower. A lot of us in the XJW community, you have people that figured it out as kids, were never into it that much. Then you have people that were really into it and something really shook them loose. It was an experience that shook them. I keep seeing the same pattern. An experience shook them loose. And then some sort of research woke them up. But first, the actual experience happens. With this gentleman on the interview, first he goes through the experience. He went through a lot first. Then he finds out about the sexual abuse issues and starts to learn about a lot of those things. Same with me. First, I went to Bethel. Bet my whole life on it. Like, I literally had the concept that bet it all on Jehovah and you'll never lose. It'll be very hard to do, a lot of sacrifices, but you'll never lose in the end. So I rolled the dice, went to Bethel and lost. And like, you know what I mean? So first there was the experience. Because I didn't wake up right after leaving Bethel. You know what I mean? I'm driving around with my stuff stacked up in the back of the car and don't even know where to go. And it still hadn't woken up yet. First, there was the experience. Then I started coming across information. And then it brings the question, and comment down below what you think. It brings the question. Oftentimes, you know, in the XJW community, which we have done a great job of, is bringing the knowledge. JWFacts.com, stuff you can't refute. It's all there. The knowledge, but that's generally the knowledge that someone reads after the experience. I wonder how a person can wake up from your experience. Because based off my experience, my older sister woke up, but I wonder, I think it's partially, she can correct me if I'm wrong, partially her experience, right? That she's been through, then she heard about mine. So first, I think it was her experience being JW. that kind of shook her loose. Then she hears all this stuff is going on about Marcus. Then Marcus tells her to look this up and look that up, and I'm telling her all the stuff I'm learning. Then she wakes up. First is the experience. How do we simulate that? When you go to a Kingdom Hall crash and you get up and you yell, you know, this organization does this, that, and the other, does that kind of, the people that are in that hall, do they experience something enough to shake them loose? To then go and look up the information? Because sometimes information, if it comes before whatever experience shakes you loose, the information alone isn't enough because of cognitive dissonance, however you pronounce that word. You know what I mean? Comment down below. Let me know what you think, because that's a huge part of waking people up. There's so many people that are awake, but their family's still in. But their family knows them and knows a lot of what happened. The knowledge wasn't enough to get them awake. But whatever happened to the person who is awake, the experience did it. And then the knowledge came after. First the experience, the person is still kind of, then they learned something that they saw online or something and they're awake. So comment down below. Let me know what you think. And 937-789-4029. If I can answer the phone, I'll answer it. You know. So sometimes I'm available, sometimes not. Texting is good. And this is X Wallkill Bethelite signing out.